distressingly large number of young people speaking at all, even in private, fills them with anxiety. Here's Jill.
As parents, getting our kids to stop talking is often the stuff of dreams.
But for 1 in every 140 young children, the simple act of speaking is nigh on impossible. They've developed an anxiety disorder called selective mutism that leaves them completely unable to speak to certain people.
Best described as a fear of speaking, young people growing up with it can become isolated as adults if the condition's not treated. One person who knows all about it is Mark. Today is a big day. He's helping establish the first ever teacher training session on it in his area. His daughter Nicola hasn't started a conversation with anyone new in 10 years. She barely even speaks to him.
Well, Nicola's condition developed when she was about 3 or 4 years of age. It was brought to our attention that she was quiet at school. And then as she progressed through primary school, she got to enter into upper school, and she totally broke down, and the anxiety kicked in, and basically she stopped talking to everybody.
Mark says Nicola's condition has impeded her development, partly because it wasn't diagnosed and treated early on.
As the anxiety increased, she went into a state what we call progressive mutism, which is she stops talking in all situations. She stopped talking to my wife, myself and my son, which is deeply upsetting, I can tell you. And by the time I started to get myself educated, it was perhaps too late. The windows of opportunity have been missed. We need to see recognition and training for teachers to identify this situational anxiety problem at the onset years.
Mark's hoping his daughter will come to the training today, but Nicola's told him that while she wants to be there, her anxiety might get the better of her.
This is what we know about selective mutism.
The speech and language therapist running the session is Maggie Johnson. As she explains, selective mutism isn't simply about being shy.
So it's a very physical reaction then to the fear?
Completely, extremely physical. The trouble is nobody else can see it. It's all going on the inside, but your heart is pounding, it's thumping, it's racing. Some children have described the feeling of their head's going to blow off, but it's like the blood rushing through and they can hear it in their ears. What you can usually see is a stiffness. What you can't see is that freeze has gripped them from the inside and it's actually frozen their vocal cords so that the vocal cords just can't vibrate and allow the sound to come out. So what can we do? We're just going to treat it like any other phobia.
While the session's in progress, Nicola arrived with her family for support. As she doesn't have a voice, it's easy to assume she doesn't have opinions either. But don't be fooled. We emailed her our questions and she's answered.
I suppose the first thing I asked you was how you feel about having selective mutism. You've been very honest. You've said you feel depressed, isolated, and different to everybody else, like an outsider. I asked, how do you react to people who just tell you to start talking? You write, I felt upset and angry and wanted them to understand more and realise it wasn't a choice not to speak. It was an anxiety disorder and that I wasn't doing it for attention like people have said in the past.
Sheer and utter anxiety.
With 4 pupils in this school affected by the condition, it's vital the staff here learn techniques to help them identify and treat it.
I do think up until today it was the child actually choosing not to speak to me because she didn't know me, I wasn't you. But obviously it's a specific feeling to her that's causing the problem.
It's fantastic. They need this in every single school. The more that people are aware of it, the more strategies will be used to combat it.
I want to know how Mark feels the day has gone.
When you look through that window there and you see not just Nicola, who's been so brave today, but these teachers all sitting here, how does that make you feel?
It makes me feel good, but the job's not finished. We need every school to get a grip of this. We can't go on like this, ignoring our children with this dreadful anxiety disorder, with a dreadful label. They're not choosing or selecting to be silent. It's not a choice. It's a failure through anxiety. She could have ducked out of this today. She could have stayed at home. But she's done it for me, and she's done it to help other kids. She's gone through a lot in 10 years, and I am still the proudest father in the world.
And this is the sweetest thing ever.
Oh, great.